Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi, Season 1. How many people have you killed for the sake of justice? Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-free review for Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi, Season 1. A giant Kyber crystal-sized thanks to our friends at Disney Studios Canada for letting us watch this series early for review. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast celebrating the world of movies, TV shows, video games, and all things Geekcentric, and all things Star Wars all the time, it seems like. Of course, I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me, but I can't save the galaxy all by myself. That's not how the Force works. First up, he's here to represent justice in the galaxy. He's Justin, the Juro-loving, loyal lightsaber-using, limb-losing Lawrence.
I don't lose limbs, bro.
You've never lost a limb?
I'm taking limbs.
Oh, shoot.
Let's get it straight. Okay?
What color is your lightsaber, dude? Holy goodness.
You got to get me to whip it out, and then you'll find out.
Oh, God. Oh. It's like, how do we do this every single time in under 2 minutes? It's wild. But listen, he's here with a green blade representing his true intentions. Oh. He's Darcy, the destined, droid-destroying, hope-harboring Hudson.
Yeah, I could probably destroy some droids. They look very easy in any iteration of Star Wars, it seems.
Clearly, you whipped it out for him. He knows your color of the blade. So.
I think that's just
you guys were crossing blades. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
It's a green. I think isn't that your favorite color, Darcy? I don't.
Green and purple are my two favorite colors. I feel like either one of those I'm good with.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. Guys, we are here with another Star Wars animated project, and specifically Star Wars in anime. We experienced this before through Star Wars Visions proper, but now we're here with a full limited series. Darcy, I kind of wanted to kick things off and ask you, as our resident anime expert, between the three of us here.
Well, yeah, call me what I am.
you're I wasn't sure if that
seems
was
a little derogatory.
I know.
That's a bit, but I embrace it because I am.
He embraces it. We embrace being geeks. Darcy, you are an anime weeb, weeaboo. I don't know if I'm using that right. Anyways, we finally got a Star Wars full multi-episode story in anime. Did you ever think we'd see the day?
No, honestly, and again, I went back and watched the first Ninth Jedi episode in that season 1 of Visions, and looking at it, it's so clearly a setup. And again, at the time, we were like, it's so cool. I'd want to explore more stories in these universes. And now here we are. What is it? 5 years later, and we have a full series in that universe. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that it's been 5 years because I guess it feels shorter because we got the 0.5 episode from
yes.
from Vision Season 3, right? And obviously getting to attend Star Wars Celebration in Japan. Star Wars is huge in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting to experience that there, I guess it doesn't feel like it's been 5 years, but I guess it's been 5 years. You rewatched the first one. Did you rewatch the 0.5 episode as well?
Unfortunately, I didn't have time to, and I remember from watching season 3 that wasn't one of my favorite episodes because it was such a setup, and I feel like if I'm going to watch one, I picked the right one and watching the first one.
Yeah. Justin, how about yourself? Did you rewatch those episodes?
Yeah, I rewatched both of them, and like the first one definitely kind of sets the tone for, like you said, Darcy, it feels like a setup for a bigger story. This focus on lightsabers and how they kind of are a symbol of the Jedi. The Force is the Force, but the lightsaber is such a distinguished weapon of the Jedi. And to have a time when the lightsabers don't exist, and there's a sabersmith who's working away at building new sabers for a new line of Jedis. It makes you, it leaves you asking questions of like, what is going on? Why? How did we get here? And yeah, like I thought the first short really, like, again, rewatching it, I was like, yeah, this is this is really, really great. And, spoilers for that short, but, the big twist when they all show up or when they show up and they're all red lightsabers, and the themes of associating what's in your heart to the color of your saber. Like, I thought that was just, it's like, it's so anime, you know what I mean? Like to connect an emotional feeling to an external element like a lightsaber like that. That felt so inherently anime, and I love that. But yeah, that twist. And then the 0.5 I watched, which is definitely just set up for this. And thinking about it even more now, I'm just like, this is a spot that could have probably gone to a studio with an original story. So, because I don't know how much that 0.5 really
adds to the story much.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I mean?
In fact,
Right?
I don't think it's a spoiler to say this. It literally doesn't do anything other than add a little bit to Kara and introduce us even further to the hunters in this story. But I shout out to Freddie Highmore as Tito, the droid. I thought that was a fun casting addition in the English.
That was
cast,
a good casting. Yeah.
But like after watching this full full series, you don't need to watch it. In fact, I don't think it's necessary at all.
The first one's necessary. I think
first
it's
one is
homework
necessary. The
to watch
0.5,
it. Yeah.
No, not really. But guys, let's get into talking about this show, this limited series, part of an all new Star Wars Visions Presents banner, which will be used to tell longer form Star Wars Vision stories. The limited series picks up not long after the events of the Vision shorts, The Ninth Jedi and The Ninth Jedi Child of Hope. In the new series, La Kara continues to train in the ways of the Jedi under Margrave Juro. Kara goes on an epic journey of self-discovery as she and Juro's small fellowship of Jedi in training embark on a quest to save her father and stop a mysterious Sith leader from unleashing darkness upon the galaxy. Fellowship is interesting because there's some parallels
Great
that
verbiage by them.
we might
Great
bring
verbiage
up
by them.
a little bit later, whoever wrote the synopsis. There's a lot of cast members to go through, so let me take a deep breath. And the Japanese cast includes Chinatsu Akasaki, Tetsuo Kanao, Hiromu Mineta, Hinata Tadakoro, Cho, Shin Ichiro, Maya Sakamoto, Hiroshi Naka, Nobuyuki Hiyama, Hiroki Takahashi, Kenji Nomura, Tetsu Inada, and Nao Omori. Apologies if I mispronounced any of those names. Our English cast includes Kimiko Glenn, Andrew Kishino, Masi Oka, Patrick Seitz, J.P. Karlak, Simu Liu, Chase Sui Wonders, Brent Mukai, Keon Young, Alex Lee, Theodore Chin, Neil Kaplan, and Young Mazzino. The 8-episode animated series from Lucasfilm, Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi, will premiere August 5th, 2026, exclusively on Disney+, which, if you are listening to this on the day that we put this episode out, is right now. The 2 episodes that we actually brought up earlier, I saw they also put out on YouTube for free. So if you're listening to this and you think you want to maybe do a little bit of homework and for some reason you aren't subscribed to Disney Plus yet, and maybe this is the thing that gets you to subscribe to Disney Plus, definitely check out those shorts on the Star Wars YouTube channel. Let's get into it. We got all 8 episodes of this limited series. And as we talked about, we saw the 2 previous entries in Kara's story leading up to this one. And, again, if you haven't watched those, Production I.G has they're an incredibly talented studio. And they've created things like Ghost in the Shell, Kaiju number 8. They've worked with some of my favorite intellectual properties as well, like Halo for Halo Legends. They did the first episode of Pokemon Origins, which is another great series, and I'm sure many other anime series that Darcy is thinking of that he might know of. So I want to start with the look and feel of this series coming from such a talented studio, and I want to start with Darcy. What did you think of the look and feel of this limited series?
Well, again, if you've watched those first 2 episodes, they kind of already established what the world they were going for looks like, and it's just brought to a fuller and more filled out extent in this series, and just the vibes you get from the different planets it's inherently Star Wars while still feeling new and fresh from this Production IG's perspective of a Star Wars story. And at the same time, there is such fantasy vibes like completely injected into this series that really fits at home with the Star Wars vibe. Again, it is a fantasy in space, and this just really takes that and really builds upon it and makes a really rich and full world that I just fell in love with.
Yeah. Justin.
Yeah, I think the animation from those two shorts was fantastic, and this series is very much the same. It's it is Production IG at its top, right? With some of the most beautiful animation that you've seen, and it's unmistakably Star Wars at the same time, right? Like it's infused. It's just such a, like, again, we're probably using a lot of the same words that I used when we were talking about Visions. It's just a beautiful marriage of the two together. The thing that I loved about the first short that we got a lot more of in this series is the lightsaber combat. It is perfect. It is fast.
So
it is
cool.
fluid. It is so physical and almost like ballet style at times. It's so well done, and the way it's animated, and you can just see the attention to detail. Just every strike has this real sense of like fluid movement and impact. It is so friggin' cool. It is unbelievable. But I guess most importantly, I think I love how much confidence this series has, not just in those moments, but in the quieter moments, like those very traditional anime moments, right? It just allows those environments and this character animation and the small expressions to just carry a scene really well. So you're getting both, right? You're getting like some of that traditional Star Wars stuff, but you're getting these like really impactful anime style moments that I love, that they're like just infused with Star Wars.
And I think there are so many elements from anime that even though I'm not a huge anime fan, and I've watched, Pokemon, and I've seen some episodes of Dragon Ball Z.
If you got into it, you would be.
I'm sure, there's elements to anime that really do work for me, and there's also a lot of elements that don't. And I think this series definitely has all of those, and we can get into that as we talk about this. But I think from a look and feel standpoint, the animation and look of anime has never been a problem for me. This show is gorgeous. The way the colors pop, and with how important color is in this series, I just love how, to your point, Justin, when you said confident, I love how confident they are to be like, yeah, we're just going to make half the screen purple in this scene. We're going to make half the screen pink in this scene. And just these hot, beautiful colors are so cool. And I just love that. I think that's something that Studio IG has done really well in the past. And I think the other element to it too is the music and sound design are also phenomenal. You can tell that these creators, this studio, not only do they have access to the Lucasfilm sound library, but it feels like they're pumping it up. They're amping it up. I think when I talk about like having seen some episodes and moments from Dragon Ball Z, those quieter moments, right, Justin, that you talk about of like the in the middle of a battle where the characters just go silent and they don't say anything, right? Those are awesome. And they feel almost like internally the characters are like powering up, like they're about to like unleash. And then when they do, that sound design hits. Like when a saber ignites in this series, it's unbelievably phenomenal sounding. So I love that. I love the lightning speed. And then the music by Nobuko Toda and Kazuma Jinoichi, they worked with the Tokyo Film Score Symphony, is so Star Wars. I think there are moments in this show, for better and for worse, and we can talk about it if we need to, that if you were to freeze frame them, someone might look at it and go, I don't know what sci-fi series that is. But if you were to play the music from at any moment in this series, it's Star Wars. It is so Star Wars. But anyways, I've been blabbing on a little bit. Was there more that you guys wanted to say about the look and feel?
Just going back to those lightsabers and the sound design and that, we talked about how the color was representative of what's inside the Jedi. We learned that in the first one. The sound is also reflecting that too, because they've reinvented what a lightsaber sounds like depending on what color it's reflecting as the soul, and it's so cool. And then the soundtrack is just so Star Wars at moments. Like by the end of it, and the big space battle happens, you are just in Star Wars no matter what. And it's so cool. The sound takes you so much of the way there, and the animation just brings it home. Basically, goes so well together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the composers understood their job to
Yes.
make music for a Star Wars piece, and
Hmm.
it hits. Like the score just adds the Star Wars scale, the Star Wars emotion without ever feeling overwhelming the story in any way. But what I love is, like you guys were saying, like the way they've used the sound effects from Star Wars as well, along with the music. You know what I mean? Like the music can play in and then stop, and then we hear that sound, and then the music can pick up after in a moment. Like it's just allowing some of the, even just for the auditory elements, just allowing these elements to breathe together, if you will. And I really appreciated that there was just such an attention to detail with that, especially given the fact that like we were talking about animation, right? So there's a whole other there is a whole other process and background to helping build out those visuals, but to create equally powerful, you know, uh, audio elements to kind of mix with that in such a meaningful way. It's just kudos to them for having such a great collaboration. But the idea of lightsabers changing color based on the person wielding them, just it is one of the coolest elements, I think, of this show and of this storyline. It's so it's so striking because it just tells us something about the character and their relationship to the force. And to your point, Darcy, when they use the color and the sound, it's just such a way to kind of identify the
Hmm.
soul of that character. It's so well done. This is so thoughtful in that regard, and I genuinely appreciate it. But like you guys are saying, like the ship designs and stuff like that, like the look of some of these ships and stuff is so incredibly unique that feels so removed from Star Wars, that I actually like, I welcome that. Like I'm like,
Yes.
that looks cool, right? Like I'm glad that like there's some things that don't feel too Star Warsy.
Yes, and I love how, like, again, going back to the fantasy elements of it, a lot of it, because it was from like where you go to different planets and see different armies or ship
Mhm.
like ship things kind of come together. It's reflected in the army, and it feels like a rebel army with your hodgepodge or mix of ships from the Mon Cala and all the other types of things. So it feels like Star Wars, despite all the ships seeming so new and fresh and nothing like Star Wars you've ever seen in a ship before. It's so cool. I had that backwards. Nothing like a ship in Star Wars we've seen before.
And I
Yeah.
think there's like we get straight up dwarfs in this series. We get a
Mhm.
dwarf collective army, basically a Gimli in this,
There's
and the
elves too, aren't
character.
there?
Well,
Like
the
there's some
character,
long-eared characters.
the dwarves have long ears, but like
Yeah,
even
okay.
just the idea of like the like there's a moment specifically in this show where we see the character, is his name Quana,
Yeah.
Quana standing next to Margrave Juro. And I'm like, that's just Legolas and Gimli right there. Like that's it. That's just what I'm looking
Hmm.
at there. And we get swords, not lightsabers. We have actual swords in this show. I think from a look and feel standpoint, there were moments where I did feel a little bit mixed. Only, and this also plays into the story a little bit for me, where I do feel like this show is at its strongest when it stays as unique as it possibly can be, right? And so when it does do things that are so new and fresh and like we've never seen before, I think there are a lot of moments where they're giving us an interpretation of Star Wars that at times can feel a little bit, sometimes too close to what we've already had in the past. And that
Mm.
was just something that was a bit distracting for me as we went through. But by no means did that, outplay or make worse the moments that were holistically new for me, the
Yeah,
elements
well,
that were
we'll talk
holistically
about it
new.
when we get into
Yeah.
story. I think this is more
Yeah.
of a story conversation, but yeah, I think there's some sentiment there that I recognize with what you're saying. Um, Voice performances. Shall we get to that?
Let's talk about the characters in this show, the performances. I went back and forth with the Japanese and
Mm.
English dubs. I can't. I'm so bad at like reading and having a meal at the same time, so I can't do that. So I had to, just for ease, had to watch some of this in English. But there were so many moments where I would watch the English cast, enjoy it well enough, but then go back and rewatch scenes from the Japanese cast, and it was just significantly better. Like, no shade to the excellent English cast in this show, but
Yeah, it's just
I wanted
a different
to throw
translation.
I wanted to throw it to both of you, starting with Darcy. What did you primarily watch this in, and what did you think of the performances in this show?
I actually watched it in both. I went back. I had time to watch it through twice, so I watched it in English and then in Japanese. And while there are moments or characters in both casts that I prefer in the opposite, I never found myself wanting one or the other. I found it this they voice acting sub versus dub has come so far from where they were trying to match lip movements in the animation. So the English cast had dumb things that said, or the plot was kind of dumbed down through their mouths. They've stopped doing that now. And thankfully this show is a continuation of that, where the story matters more so than the mouth movements lining up. So I didn't notice any reduction in terms of quality. And I like the fact that we've also stepped away from the overacting in English dubbing, where it used to be over the top. And I understand that's in Japanese, it is still very over the top. That part doesn't really translate very well. So we're getting more character performances on the English side of things, which I really enjoyed this time around. It's very refreshing from an anime perspective, in my opinion.
Yeah. They're not the English cast is not sort of playing up their voice performance for the sake of, it's anime, so it needs to be a little bit more energetic. I do think Kara, performed by Kimiko Glenn is her name. She definitely was very reminiscent of classic female anime protagonists, very, just the way her line delivery it was, but that didn't bother me. So to answer your question, I watched this primarily in English. I did go back and forth just to kind of get a flavor. But to the point of what you said, Darcy, there's not one or the other that's better. I think that it's interesting that there's cast like Simu Liu that's in this, there's
Masaoka.
also Masioko. There's also JP Karlik, I believe his name is. He plays Gramps, who's absolutely
in everything
great.
We're watching lately.
Yeah, he's in X-Men 97 as Morph, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Batman, Cape Crusader,
he's in Crusader. Yeah, that's right. He's in Batman, Cape Crusader. So he's a very prominent voice actor in the animated world, and I think he's probably done a fair bit of anime dubbed work as well. I'm sure Darcy would probably
by this point.
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone understands how to perform, though, like you said, Darcy, in the English side, to perform within the sort of heightened style, hit the emotional rhythms, but also keep it still a performance that isn't just animated upwards for the sake of the genre. It's still I liked how Simu Liu's performance was a little more subdued, right?
And played toned down. It makes sense for his character's journey.
For sure. And I think, it just helped to kind of ground these characters a little bit more, right? But yeah, definitely I think when I think of the anime style dubbed work, Kimiko Glenn's performance as Kara definitely was reminiscent of it. But it's weird. I didn't mind it, right? I actually thought it was this is good. I like it.
Yeah, so, it's nostalgic for a different reason.
Exactly. It's nostalgic, and she's still great in how she performs.
Yeah. I think the cast overall was great. I think the only shout out to JP Karlak for sure. Shout out to Alex Lee as well, who plays Beto, who is just one of the coolest characters ever. But I do think, though, there were some elements in the performance, and again, this is not a criticism on them so much as it is just depending on how much you enjoy dialogue in anime and in anime that you might have seen, that's going to maybe if you feel the same way as I do, which is that there are just some elements in terms of how the dialogue is written that I understand when hearing it. That's anime, and that's just how the dialogue is written in anime. But it for me, it does come across as just a little bit too much. Things like just a line of my insolence got us here, even though you always scolded me about it. Just something that characters might think in their head or say out loud. But for me, it it doesn't work as well. And again, that's a personal thing. That's not necessarily something that's wrong with the show.
Yeah.
Well, because I was going to say, like, does reading it bother you then? Like, does that line still stick out to you even though you're reading it?
And that's the thing. No, it didn't. Like, reading it, especially in the Japanese side,
Because it's the same. Like, I've watched with subtitles on both things, and they're saying word for word the subtitles are exactly what the English cast is saying. So that's just wondering if it was just dialogue that took you out, or if it was just the way it was written.
Or the way it was performed too, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe the idea is what you're talking about, Nate, is the direct translation. Maybe there needs to be a little bit more of a sort of improvisation on the English side that doesn't feel like it needs to be so direct to source.
Yeah.
But like, I think that line was delivered by Kara, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And to me, that just plays into her characters. And that's what I'm saying. Like, her character was the most air quote anime style dubbed character that you can think of, right? Like, she's pretty much like the way her line delivery was, the sort of hint of emotions, the way she just would like obviously they must have done just a bunch of like takes of like
just the noises,
you know what I mean? Like the little like
noises of exertion or whatever.
Like all these little things, like all of that just felt so quintessentially anime, like she being the main character. So like, again, it's like, it's a toss up, right? Because it is one of those things. It's like, if you don't vibe with that kind of performance or aren't aware of that kind of thing within anime, then it might not necessarily like hit the, the way it needs to. But I think for me, at least, it's like, it kind of comes with the territory. Do you know what I mean? It comes with the territory in a lot of ways, but I could see how it would, maybe for someone like yourself, who's not necessarily as like, you want more performative, less of a sort of read, direct read of that line. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that would have been.
I think there could have been some creative elements that could have been used, but again, that would be playing towards people that maybe, again, like myself, are just not as familiar or versed in the world of anime. And if this is playing towards anime fans from an anime studio, then that's just how it is. And again, I will take that, in order to get some of the cooler elements within the story and visuals and all the good things that we're hyping up about this show. Was there anyone in particular from this cast that you wanted to shout out or highlight before we move into the story?
Not in particular. Again, I love both casts through and through, so there was no one in particular who I think would stand out, because I could talk about all of them equally.
Yeah. Okay. Dope. Let's get into the story. I think the best thing about this story is that it does take place so far removed from anything that we know. They keep it really sort of rather vague in terms of like a long time after the Jedi and Sith, and I think that was really cool of them to distance us from what we had before. And this was something that was established in that original short, and we're just sort of continuing in this world. But I'll throw it to you, Darcy, to kick us off here. What did you think of the story in this 8-episode limited series?
I think one of my favorite parts about this story is how many different corners of Star Wars it's pulling inspiration from in the character plot lines, and just some of the character designs, or just how we're seeing these planets for the first time. It's so cool how it's so inherently Star Wars, but seems, again, so fresh. It's really doubling down on the fantasy vibes that Star Wars was inspired by, while also injecting so much of that samurai essence that made Star Wars and the lightsaber so cool. So like, it is such a cool representation of what Star Wars can be as an inspiration to someone. And this is exactly why I love Visions, is because we get cool stories and inspirations of the stories we love so much. Like, it's a Star Wars story through and through. And while I feel like the pacing in the first half is a bit clunky, that second half comes together so tightly that it is incredible. Like, I'm willing to forgive that first half because of how strong it nails and comes together like a great Star Wars movie in the end. It's so good.
Yeah, I think we have to remember this is a show that, is its task is to pull from the larger Star Wars mythos, right? And pull in all of these different elements to kind of tell its own story, right? We don't know how this story exists. We don't know if the Skywalker saga exists in this, right? It could literally be a what if situation. It's just all the elements of Star Wars told in a different way. And I think its intent is to draw on the familiar ideas while still finding its own identity. And, this idea of like rebuilding the Jedi and this constant tension between, light, dark, and other elements as well. I think it's filtered through them. It's all filtered through the anime perspective, right? And I think that combination makes the story feel like recognizably Star Wars, like I was saying before, but like also allowing to establish its own mythology, its own characters, its own interpretations of those Star Wars elements, the Force, the Jedi. Like I said, like it's really interesting. Like if you think about it, there's such a focus in Star Wars and Lucasfilm on the Force, but this is focusing on the lightsaber. It's focusing on the archetypal weapon of the Jedi, the thing that defines a Jedi, because the Force is the Force. It's like a sense of belief, right? It's not what defines the Jedi, right? The lightsaber is what defines the Jedi. And I think seeing that as a symbol of hope, of a time that was before, like it's a very interesting perspective to kind of take on. But yeah, I think this is a great little corner that we're in, and I'm excited if we hopefully get more.
Yeah. I think the idea of the Force being no longer this thing that you're born with, right? No longer this thing that is only specific to certain bloodlines within Star Wars has been a trend that we've really been seeing in Star Wars storytelling, and I'm happy for it because I think as an audience, it does allow us as an audience to sort of feel a little bit more like anyone can be a Jedi. We can.
It's like
I
waiting
can be
for
a
a
Jedi.
wizard letter all over again.
Yes,
basically.
exactly, sure. But I think this show does a really good job of, to your point, Justin, refocusing and sort of setting the Force as something that everyone can tap into, and that the lightsaber element being so wrapped up in this mystery, I think is probably the best part of this story for me. I really enjoyed, I do think to your point, Darcy, the first, like, I would even go so far as to say 5 episodes, first 4 episodes at least, are slow plotting, and they do take quite a bit of time to get to. Once we get to that 5th episode, it really does pick up steam. But I did enjoy the parts of the story that explored the mystery behind Kara's father and Nawam's interest in capturing him. And I think the characters that we meet throughout are great, and we really do sort of collect this fellowship of characters.
It's awesome
along the way.
It's really cool what they
cool.
were able to play with, right?
Yeah.
It was amazing. I think it's exactly why Visions, this is an example of why Visions is just such an exciting part of Star Wars, because it's taking all of the familiar ideas, and to the point of what you were saying before, Darcy, it's not afraid to draw on other things like fantasy, and there is very much like a very coded Lord of the Rings vibe to some of the worlds and the characters, and I don't think that's thing, but they both relate to hope, mentorship, found family, the idea of light and dark sides, of good and bad. You know what I mean? Like it's just, it all comes together and creates a very fresh creative lens. And I think it's, again, we were talking about it, but it's the visual confidence. It's that the show has. It's sincere and it's emotional, but it's willing to reinterpret that mythology rather than just simply doing it exactly the same. It's taking elements and doing it differently, and not in a way that you might feel like it feels familiar, but I feel like upon like watching it, it's drawing from the mythos to tell its own version of that story. I'm obviously trying to dance around something here, so I don't spoil anything.
I know
It's in the trailer. It's in the trailer.
It's in the trailer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So watch the trailer, and you can stop listening if you want and watch it from here.
Well, there's it has its own planet killer, right? Like we in that it's a weapon that's clearly powered by a kyber crystal, right? But the way they do this story, the way they tell this story about what this thing is and the importance and the kyber crystal itself and all of this, it is different, right? In a way that feels removed from the original, but inspired by the original story of having like a killer weapon. And we know that these weapons are seen within Star Wars as a sign of power, of dominance, right? This is what this is in this story. So yeah, I think there's elements that lovingly come over, and characters that are adapted. There's some fun takes. I don't think it's any different from like what we were talking about with Batman Cape Crusader, where they do a bit of a switch up on some of the characters, and there are interpretations of some characters that feel very reminiscent of characters from the galaxy that we know. But to the point of what you were saying, Nate, the pacing, yeah, it does feel like at the first half does really drag. It felt longer than it was in my mind, but as soon as episode 5 came out, I was like, okay. And then I watched 6. Those last 3 episodes are just perfection.
Yeah.
Like they really do stick the landing. So it's a bit to get into, but I think if you're a Star Wars fan and anime fan, you'll really love it.
Yeah, I think the to what you're saying in terms of the familiar elements, I think for myself personally, there was a lot of moments where we got new story elements like the lightsabers, sort of color determining is determinant based on your how you are on the inside or who you are. There were a lot of moments though that did sort of, for me personally, rub too closely to being something we'd seen before. And I think for me, the whole idea of just another planet killing weapon was just something that I personally could have done without. I can understand why, how hard it is to write a story about a galactic galaxy, problem, and not just go for that. I think this series again to me, it just feels like it's at its best narratively when they are trying to do something that we haven't seen before, and those elements are excellent. I think it's the some of those repeats that we've sort of, you'll see and you'll just go, oh, I immediately think of the Death Star, or I immediately think of a scene in Rise of Skywalker, for me, that personally didn't work as well. But that's just me.
I mean, I honestly, this is my favorite planet killing device I've seen in Star Wars yet. I will say that much because of the story behind it and how it relates to the overall story we get told throughout this series. I think it's really cool. Again, the way they are inspired by Star Wars across, again, from the characters to the archetypes, whether it's your bounty hunter or your dark side user type thing, the way they take those things and have so many elements you're familiar with, but they kind of flip it on their head and spin it around in different ways. Just, it's where it works so well for me. Again, those callbacks where I'm thinking of something in Star Wars and just chuckling to myself and smiling because this is what makes me feel like Star Wars. And it's just, it feels new, and it just makes I'm so happy I'm getting this from an anime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's get to our final thoughts and maybe what you would give this series or this season on a scale of 1 to 5 giant kyber crystals. Darcy.
Yeah, so I loved so much of this series, but only after we get to the end. Again, that first few episodes, bit of a slog. I think to me, episode 4 is when the pieces kind of started clicking into place for me, and I became invested in the story and the characters a bit more. And then again, those last 3 episodes ride out so well that it feels so inherently Star Wars and right up there with the epic battles over Hoth or whatever you want to say in past Star Wars stories. So it's so cool that, again, that we're getting this from an anime, and I love that we're doing that despite the slog that it is to get to that thing. I'm definitely going to recommend this to a lot of my friends who are fans of both anime and Star Wars, because I feel like it is a really cool entry point into this universe. Like a very interesting lens to look at the Star Wars universe that maybe they wouldn't have thought about looking at it through in the first place. So I'll be giving this one a 4 out of 5 giant kyber crystals. Definitely worth checking out if you're a Star Wars fan or an anime fan.
Justin.
Yeah, I think for me, straight out of the gate, there's parts of the anime style storytelling that didn't entirely work for me. And I think it is just the slow pacing of like how information is given to us for context of understanding characters, motives, relationships, so on and so forth. So I think from a pacing standpoint, it didn't work for me. But you're right, Darcy. I think it's after. Yeah, I would say it's actually after episode 4, and it's a pretty great episode. And when we get into episode 5, and I think that's where things kind of like really start to kind of pick up. But those first 3 episodes are a bit of a slower burn. But I think what I love about the show is just it's the thematic crossover between anime and just Star Wars storytelling. It absolutely worked. I think the series understands the ideas at the heart of Star Wars. This idea of hope, identity, mentorship and just leader and becoming your own person in some ways, right? As a Force user and as a Jedi, and choosing between the light and dark. It explores them through a distinct anime lens that is very, very fresh for this, right? I know we've had a whole bunch of shorts from Star Wars Visions that are different looks even through the anime styles, but this feels so inherently anime and then so inherently Star Wars. But yeah, those final 3 episodes, they were probably the strongest, with sense of character work, action, just you seeing these larger themes kind of really intertwine in satisfying ways. But yeah, despite my reservations with the pacing, I think the series stuck to landing, and I would definitely be interested in seeing where a second season could take Kara and a new generation of Jedis and whatever is out there. But yeah, I'm going to be giving this one a 3.5 out of 5 giant kyber crystals.
Yeah, I think I'm there as well. I like, obviously the craft, the color, the sounds, the music. Like, there's so much to enjoy from Production I.G specifically in this, and I think the character design is so unique, and great cast all around. I think that the idea of expanding beyond the initial shorts in this new sort of Star Wars Visions banner long form storytelling has me really excited, like so excited just to see what other stories we could maybe go with and get pull more from, whether that be an 8-episode limited series or maybe a movie or what have you. I think could be really, really neat to see.
An Aardman Star Wars movie would be fantastic.
Come on, Aardman, just make it happen. I'll watch that. But I think I do think, again, this show, for me personally, I just felt it was at its best when they stretch the story beyond the too familiar Star Wars tropes, when they aren't rubbing too closely to the concepts that we've already explored, and especially narratively. I think from a writing perspective, when they give us something that is so much more original than what feels like an interpretation of a story that we've explored 3 times already, that's where this show really shines, and it gets me excited for a season 2. I think the idea of what they could do, like you said, Justin, going forward with a story that is just maybe, this is the setup in a way almost for an even larger story, for a story that could be, something that we've never explored before in Star Wars, but with these characters that we've now grown to enjoy quite a bit. I think is really, really exciting. So I do really hope that they get a second season out of this. I don't really know. You would just got to tell everybody to watch it, I think, is what, if we want a second season, because I don't know if, as much as I love the marketing and the trailer with Paramore in the in the English trailer for this show, it's awesome. I just don't know if this definitely isn't a moneymaker. I don't think this is a series that could, I want it to have legs. I just don't know if it will.
I think, just again, based on the market base that is anime fans, I think this will easily find an audience there that will determine or like make it worth of the second season. Looking at what second seasons of animes are coming out currently from across the board, I think this is going to fit right up there with some of the strongest competitors from this current season of anime.
Yes, I absolutely agree, and I hope that is the case. I'm going to give Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi Season 1 3.5 out of 5 giant kyber crystals. But that is it for our spoiler-free review for Star Wars Visions Presents The Ninth Jedi Season 1. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to share your thoughts on this series or any of the movies or series we cover, well, let me just reach out to Justin through the Force to help him discover that his thoughts cloud his judgment, and that he too one day can be strong enough to tell you how you can reach us.
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. They can also hit us up on X or Twitter, whatever you like to call it, at GeekcentricYT, or on Instagram and TikTok at wearegeekcentric.
I thought you were going to do like as an anime character, maybe. Could you?
My insolence! My insolence has failed! I'm so sorry! There's
there
your
you go.
voice,
Perfect.
right?
I love it. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies and TV shows, including our most recent reviews for Spider-Man Brand New Day, which we also have a full spoiler-filled breakdown for. We also have our reviews for Batman Caped Crusader Season 2, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, 007 First Light, Disney's Moana, DC Studios' Supergirl, and Toy Story 5. Plus so many more from throughout the hot geek summer that continues to heat up. We've got some upcoming spoiler-filled discussions. We're going to try and see if we can do one for House of the Dragon Season 3, X-Men 97, which both of those finales are coming up real soon, as well as our Odyssey IMAX experience. We are going to be seeing the Odyssey in IMAX, and we are going to be talking about it in full spoilers, and also just talk about the IMAX experience in general, as well as talking about movies like Dune Part 3, Avengers Doomsday, and everything in between. Plus, we've got our recent San Diego Comic-Con recap, where we discuss the biggest news coming from San Diego Comic-Con, from news about God of War Lao Fei, Spaceballs the second one, and all that Marvel Hall H goodness, as well as our thoughts on like 9 or 10 different trailers on upcoming movies and shows that we are excited for. So if you want to check that out, be sure to do so right here on your podcast service of choice. Or if you want to check out our interviews, where we interview your favorite filmmakers, actors, composers, directors, you can do so by heading over to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Geekcentric. And while you're at it, we would love to hear from you. A 5-star review would just go such a long way for us. I know in my heart that if only you believe in the 5 stars on Apple Podcast, will we grow to one day? You know, that's something like that. Darcy, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this force-filled, spoiler-free review. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.
Peace.